On today's episode of the Ducks on 503 podcast, we're going to be ranking the Pac-12 quarterbacks for 2023, 1 through 12. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. This is the Ducks on 503 podcast, where we talk all things Oregon football. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Duck Zone 503 podcast, talking all things Oregon football with your host, Dominiqk Peterson. Let's go.
Welcome into today's edition of the Ducks on 503 podcast. The date is Monday, August 14th, 2023, and I am happy to be with you. I'm joined by Maleki Stanton of the DucksFocus. Excuse me, I'm so used to saying my own thing. The DucksFocus podcast, and we're going to be doing something fun today, guys. Let's rank the Pac-12 quarterbacks starting from 12 to 1, and let me tell you guys, I am so excited to do these rankings this year in particular because, man, oh man, does the Pac-12 conference got some gunslingers at the quarterback this position. What do you think, man? Are you excited to do this or what?
I'm real excited, and I'm honored to be on here. And I'm really excited because we have some great quarterbacks in the Pac-12, one of the best conferences for quarterbacks. So I'm really excited to talk about some of these guys.
Oh, yeah, 100%, man. Another thing I'm going to say to you guys is I'm not afraid to say this here. I'll be saying it all season. I think the Pac-12 is going to be the second best conference to watch in all of college football this year. Now, I know that's a hot take, but look, I personally think, like Maleki just said, I think they have some of the best offenses and some of the best quarterbacks to watch. And what does that do? That makes for great entertainment football for the fans all around the country to tune into, and I'm sure they're going to do it. It's going to be electric. So let's get right into it. Drum roll, please. The three things that I will be basing my quarterback rankings today are, number one, statistical output from the previous season. Pretty simple, right? How did you do last year on the field? What do the numbers say? Number two, team talent versus individual talent, meaning is the team you're on below us, like a below 6-win projected team? At the same time, you're the star of that team and you're just single-handedly making that team go with your play? Or are you a really good quarterback, but at the same time, you have loads of talent around you to help facilitate those stats a little bit? So that's something I'm going to take into account. And then number three, last thing, is competition of play. There are some new big-time transfer quarterbacks that are coming into the Pac-12 this year. So we're going to be grading the level of competition of the previous conference they played in compared to the level of competition of the Pac-12 where they'll be playing this year. So to start out, let's go ahead and start out our rankings here. I got number one here, starting at number 12. I'm going to go with Sam Jackson / Ben Finley over at Cal. I'm going to be honest here, not much is expected of the Cal Bears this year, and I know it's been a few seasons now for the Golden Bears where they haven't really picked it up. Cal Bears offense was only able to average a measly 23 points per game, 91 in all of college football with a dreadful 360 yards per game to go along with that. That's 87th in all of college football. And after losing both Kai Milner and Jack Plummer to the transfer portal, they took in TCU transfer Sam Jackson. Jackson appeared in just a few games for the Horned Frogs last season when he did play, but he did look very athletic at the quarterback position. Former NC State quarterback Ben Finley looks to battle Sam Jackson for that starting quarterback one spot. Now, to be honest with you guys, neither quarterback really excites me, and the only skill player that Cal has that I know off the top of my head is Jaden Ott. Other than that, I don't really know some other big-time weapons for their quarterbacks there. That's why I have them at number 12. All right, Maleki, it's on you now. Who's your number 12 quarterback going into 2023? Excuse me.
2023. Number 12 for me, I'm going to try to say his name. If I butcher it, I'm sorry. I think is it Ari Patu?
Yeah, Ari Patu. Yeah.
Ari Patu. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Anyways, Ari at number 12, when you're in the top from like 12 kind of to 10, you're kind of in the nitty gritty of the Pac-12 quarterback rankings for the 2023 season. And with the nitty gritty comes a lot of projection. Though the spring, it appears that Ari has done enough to separate himself from Ashton Daniels, but we're still firmly in the wait and see portion, I would say, of Stanford's offseason. Patu, the former high-profile recruit, has flashed in his Stanford career. Patu has great pocket passer size with a great build and arm. But it also comes into the move of open field. He was really good with open field, and he may lack some creativity in the pocket. I'm not going to lie to you, but the big man from Folsom, California, he already seems ahead of the curve when you're watching him. And his high school tape is phenomenal. I don't know if you've ever watched his high school tape, but he was very good in high school, and he was very athletic on the run. And he made some phenomenal plays that I think if he were to translate over into college, he would be really phenomenal. And he showed that, he could be good at Stanford. And I would say that I haven't seen enough, right, to rank him higher on the list. And that's why I have him at 12. But I really think he is right there with Cal. I think Cal and Stanford are both kind of right there tied, I would say, at the 12 and 11 kind of spot. There's a lot of questions regarding Stanford and their offense heading into the 2023 season. There's a lot of questions, I would say, overall about Stanford as a team as a whole. So it's going to be interesting to watch Stanford this upcoming year. But again, that's why I have them at number 12.
100%. Yeah, definitely a lot of questions for Stanford, and that's why I have them at number 11. Ari Patu / Ashton Daniels is my number 11 quarterback room, I guess we'd say, going into 2023. Now, just like Cal, not much is expected for Stanford this year. They entered the post-David Shaw era, and here comes in Troy Taylor for the rebuild. 19.5 points per game, 109th in all of college football, 349.5 yards per game, 95th in all of college football, while allowing 34 points per game on opponents to score. It was a really bad Stanford team last season, and it doesn't look like they're going to get much help this year either. In the offseason, according to 247 Sports, Stanford finished the 2023 recruiting class with the nation's number 62nd class, 76th transfer portal class in the nation, and the 9th ranked class overall in Pac-12. To wrap that up in 3 easy words, guys, that is not good enough. Ari Patu looked pretty damn good this spring. He was a notable recruit 2 years ago. He hasn't played much in his Stanford career, but he looks like a promising pocket passer for the tree. All right. Who's your number 11 team?
At number 11, I have Sam Jackson and Cal, which you just talked about, Cal. Times are tough right now for the Cal Bears. I don't think there's any denying that. They took in TCU transfer Sam Jackson as their leading single caller after losing both Kai Milner and Jack Plummer to the transfer portal. The Cal staff brought in former NC State quarterback Ben Finley almost immediately after the hit. Almost immediately after he hit the portal. Finley committed to the Golden Bears 2 weeks after hitting the portal and may push for some time to start at the Cal Bears. I would say their offense overall right now, it's a little bit shaky. Though he appeared in just a handful of games at TCU over the past 2 seasons, Jackson's athleticism and his leadership still popped. I mean, if you look at what past players, coaches have said about him, they always talk about his leadership and what a leader he is on the field. And his most experienced game came against Harlingen a season ago, in which he attempted for 4 passes and ran TCU read option with great success, which the read option was very unique. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but he ran that really well. So Finley is clearly more experienced of the duo, but Jackson may have the higher ceiling here, I would say.
100%. Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, let's move on here. Going to number 10. For me, Ducks on 503 podcast, we got Arizona State at number 10. We got Drew Pine, Jacob Conover, and Jaden Rashada in that room. Guys, the Dillingham era is here. And look, me personally, I'm kind of sad that Dillingham is gone. One big thing that I said all year, some of you everydayers on the Ducks on 503 podcast might know this a little bit. But every time we scored, because Dillingham and his name Dillingham, every time we scored a touchdown, I'd say, Dilly Dilly. That was a big thing. Every time I was in the stadium, the fans around me would all say it. It was a good time. But now he's gone. Kenny Dillingham, our former offensive coordinator, is off to Arizona State to begin, again, his head coaching career. And look, after spring ball, it's not exactly clear who's going to be the quarterback one for the Sun Devils come week 1. Now, as intel rolls in by the day, that might become a little more clear. Drew Pine looks to be the guy with the most experience. He threw for 22 touchdowns at Notre Dame before being replaced as a starter there. Jacob Conover entered the transfer portal when BYU opted to take in Keaton Slovis. Both guys took a backseat to their previous respective schools. Now, look, they want to be the guy and be quarterback one for Dillingham and lead the Sun Devils in 2023. Now, we can't forget about the new kid on the block as well. Probably the biggest name in this room, Jaden Rashada. Lots and lots and lots of headlines surrounding his recruitment. I won't get into too much, but if you don't know, he had a huge NIL deal, a lot of money, committed to Florida. Later in his recruitment, he decides to pull out and take his talent to Arizona State. Dillingham, while at Oregon, was continuously in Rashada's recruitment. While he went to Arizona State, he needed a quarterback. Why not go get the 5-star kid, right? I believe Rashada has the talent to beat out the other two quarterbacks. I do. I believe that he could be the starter, but will it be week one? I don't think so. I think he's going to need some time. Freshmen tend to need a little bit of time. By the end of the season, I don't expect the Sun Devils to be that great. I would think Rashada would be their starting quarterback by the time the season comes in. All right, Maleki, who you got at number 10?
I couldn't agree more with you. I also have at number 10 ASU and Drew Pine. You know, we didn't get many answers around the situation in the backfield from Arizona State following spring practices. I would say it's still it's up in the air right now between the three and the two, but both are good. It's both a good and a bad thing. I'd say entering the summer. Sure, there's a lot of promise right now, right? With the grouping of Drew Payne, Jacob Conover, and Jaden Rashada, but neither has pulled through enough, I would say, to really be QB1, to show that they deserve the QB1 spot. Drew Pine finished the year admirably for Notre Dame, tossing 22 touchdowns in the process, but he was the cast aside when the staff, got their chance at Sam Hartman. Jacob Conover was looked over when Jaron Hall declared for the draft, and the Cougars opted to take Keaton Slovis. So what that says about both players is that they were kind of the second, right? The kind of second pick of their, past teams. That's kind of probably got to suck. But coming in, then you talked about Jaden Rashada, right? And he's a household name at this point, for them. And he's currently struggling to clear his name of the following NIL. That was a big deal. And you just talked about it. And what was lost in Rashada's story was his ability on the field, kind of, and a baseball player as well, right? Rashada's got the arm angles and can be special, right? He has that ability to be special, as you talked about, maybe coming in right later in the season and taking that QB1 spot, which I could see happening for sure. And I think it probably will happen over time. But for right now, I would say ASU is probably in one of the lowest spots you're going to see them for a little while. But again, I think Jaden Rashada will probably come in a little bit later on in the season and start taking over things.
Yeah, 100%. I think, whoever gets that starting spot for ASU, they're going to have a great story, whoever it is, because the other two guys, they were backups at where they were at. If they become that quarterback one and be successful, that's going to be a great story. Or if it's Jaden Rashada, a freshman coming in, that's going to be a great story after all the things he had to go through in his recruitment. So that's going to be great. I'm really excited to see what Dillingham does with those guys. All right, let's move it on here. Number 9, I got Colin Schlee and Dante Moore, UCLA room. Number 9 here. 5-star Dante Moore is the highest rated recruit to ever sign at UCLA. Chip Kelly definitely landed himself a primetime elite high school prospect. Now, I have no doubt that one day Dante Moore will be special, but will that be day one? He's a freshman, just like we just talked about Jaden Rashada, high 5-star quarterback coming in, but he's a freshman. Freshman needs some time. And what a story it was, man. And I got to pause for a second because it kind of hurts, man. The one that slipped away, right? All for good reason, though. Bo Nix returns for his second year. 5-star quarterback. At one time, Oregon commit Dante Moore flips his commitment to UCLA at the last minute. Because of that, it made for great headlines around the recruiting world. And only time will tell if that really hurts the Ducks moving forward. But like I said, as talented as Moore is, he's going to have a big-time battle on hand for that quarterback one position. Kent State transfer quarterback Colin Schlee is no slouch. He'll be taking Moore head-on. The former Golden Flash quarterback threw for more than 2,100 yards and had 13 touchdowns last season. So it's going to be a great quarterback battle in that UCLA room moving forward. Who do you got at number 9, Maleki?
At number 9, I got Dante Moore, UCLA. And as you just said, it hurt. it hurt to see Dante Moore flip. I think you talk to any Oregon fan, they're still sad about it. They still wanted Dante Moore. But Dante Moore does have that it factor about him. I mean, you watch his film. He was an incredible athlete. And that's why it hurts so much, I would say, for everyone, seeing him move on. And there was no doubt that he was talented. Moore started the spring game. And he may have a leg up, actually, on transfer quarterback Collins Lee, despite both entering the program around the same time. Moore's a dominant athlete and closed out the recruiting cycle as one of the top players overall, regardless, of position. And as you talked about, the highest ranked, recruit coming into UCLA. Collins Lee, he threw for more than 2,100 yards and had 13 touchdowns, dominating when he was on top of his game. Schlee's passing strengths come from his decision-making, his arm strength, utilizing a tightly limited window. I mean, he has so many talents. He really is. He's not a bad quarterback at all. I agree with you, though, that it'll be interesting to see as the season goes on who will, take that position. I think it's a close battle right now. I'm not sure. I haven't followed it super closely, but from what I've heard, it is close. And in terms of snaps, I think, it's going to be interesting to see, but I do see, of course, Dante taking over in time, as his talent is just something unbelievable and his film is really great. So I have UCLA at number 9.
Yeah, man. So it looks like the last two we've had like the same. Maybe we're gonna start getting some different rankings here.
Maybe.
But UCLA. So one question I have for you. So who do you guys start in week 1? And then do you think that Dante Moore will eventually take that starting spot?
Yeah. I would say.
Or do you think he's gonna start week 1?
I think it's getting pretty heated, right? Week 1. I've heard some kind of talk about consciously starting that week 1. Game. And, I think maybe they start Colin, just kind of give Dante that time to build as a player, an athlete, a leader, all of those things, right, that you want in a quarterback, instead of just pushing him right out into college ball, because that, that's always tough on a freshman. So maybe they start him the first couple weeks, or maybe they really do start him for week 1. But I think for the first game, they'll probably go with Colin, just to give Dante that time. But who knows? Maybe, maybe he does start. And if he does, good luck to Dante, and I'm excited to see him play. So
throwing him into wolves. Yeah, I mean, that'd be pretty crazy. I mean, Colin does have that experience, playing with Kent State, and Kent State was pretty good. So we'll see. I mean, if Dante is able to start, I think that's more of just telling you how good Dante really is. Yeah. So that would be a good sign for UCLA if Dante was starting week 1. But I agree with you. I think the smart thing, and I think what Chip might do, is get Colin in there a few weeks and then probably get more in there through the season. Okay, moving on to number 8 here, who I got. I got DJ Uiagalelei from Oregon State. Now, a fresh start in the Pacific Northwest could be the exact thing a quarterback needs to rejuvenate his confidence. Just look at the 2 quarterbacks last year. We got Bo Nix at Oregon, Michael Penix at Washington. Both had career years, and both are projected top quarterbacks for next year's draft. They, came from their last prospective programs, come to the West Coast, ball out. Could that be the case for DJ Uiagalelei in 2023? Gone are the days of Chance Nolan as he hit the portal, and Ben Goldbranson played fairly well, but is he the starter the Beavers needed to compete in the Pac-12 championship to get there? I don't think so. And an even bigger question for the Beavers this year, is DJ that quarterback? I mean, to be honest with you, he wasn't necessarily that for Clemson, right? That's the whole reason he transferred. He struggled through the COVID year of 2020 in limited action, and then ultimately put up ACC lows in almost every metric among starting quarterbacks in 2021. Things look better in 22, but not to a Clemson Stanford. Again, he's here at Oregon State for a reason. I understand he has a lot of hype. A lot of the media is giving this guy a lot of hype, but you have to understand he was here for a reason. That's why I kind of have him at 8, is he's going to have to prove it for me. Played at a big-time school, had all the tools, had great weapons around him, and still put up questionable statistics. So coming to the Beavers with less talent, is that going to make him better? We're going to have to see. I believe in Jonathan Smith. I think he's a great quarterbacks coach, one of the best in the conference. So will he take that next step? We've seen the other 2 quarterbacks do it last year. Will he take that next step? Big question for me. That's why I have the Beavers and DJU at number 8. All right, who do you got at number 8?
Again, similar, hopefully we have some switches coming up. But at number 8, I also have DJ. I think that, now more than ever, it's clear, right, that it's his kind of spot to lose, I guess you could say. And you just talked about, right, the lows in 2020. I also had that in my notes, because it does stick out to you. It's like, wow, looking at that. But then him coming in, I just actually read an article right before filming this that was put out about they just had a scrimmage, and he did really good. I think he got about 3 touchdowns, I think it was, and
nice.
Completed. I don't remember the exact stats, but I think it was 11 out of 15 passes were completed. So he did very well in the scrimmage.
At least it's not like the Colorado's. I don't know if you've seen this on Twitter, but Colorado's Barstool are reporting Shedeur Sanders 5,000 plus yards, 50 touchdowns in fall camp, and I'm like, dude, it's fall camp. Can we calm down a little bit? I hear you. They're doing great. 100%. And sorry to cut you off. No,
you're good. No, you're 100%. You're good. I just saw that though, and I was like, wow, and practices, they are, I would say kind of, they are what they are, but it's still impressive. He has shown signs of improvement, I would say,
100%.
From coming from Clemson. And yeah, again, those lows, they were a little bit concerning, but I think he kind of bounced back right in 2022 with his, I think, back in 2022, he bounced kind of back. But ultimately, Clemson just kind of wasn't his school. And, you saw Bo Nix, right? Or Michael Penix Jr., right? They came into the pack and they, are way better, than I would say they were back at their old colleges. So, maybe that's the case for DJ. Maybe it's not. We're going to find out here pretty soon. So again, I have him at number 8. And I'm excited to see him also play against his brother. Because if you all don't know, his brother is at Oregon playing on that D line. So it'll be exciting.
Mateo.
To see his brother. Yep. Mateo
Ugiagale.
Yep. So brother versus brother.
Star. Yeah, that's going to be awesome, man.
Yeah,
that's going to be awesome to see. Civil War. Yeah, man, that's going to be great. Yeah, I think people are going to be pretty surprised to have Oregon State and DJU at number 8 because you look at a lot of other articles and stuff, they got DJU a little higher than that. You know what I mean? And so for us to have them at number 8 is a little surprising. So that's pretty great. All right, guys, moving on with the podcast here. So we got Maleki Stanton of the DucksFocus Podcast here. I'm Dominiqk Peterson, the host of the Ducks on 503 Podcast. If you're enjoying this content, if you're locked in with us, hit that subscribe button down below. And also go hit that subscribe button on the DucksFocus Podcast because, guys, you ain't going to want to miss all the action on both podcasts, giving you breaking news, daily updates, recruiting analysis, all that kind of good stuff. So tune in, go hit that subscribe button. All right, moving on here. Let's go to number 7. I got Shedeur Sanders from Colorado at number 7. Now, look, some of you might be a little surprised on how I got Primetime Junior this low. But look, this is the first season of him playing Division Pac-12 football. I like to, kind of put a reality check in some people that put a lot of hype into these players that played at HBCU schools just a season ago. He's going to be playing a lot more faster, stronger, more athletic athletes on the other side of the ball this season. Now, do I personally think coming on in that he's the 7th best quarterback in the Pac-12? My gut tells me no. But look, he has yet to prove anything to me. He has 0 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 pass attempts in the Pac-12. He has yet to prove to me anything. The numbers were very excellent, okay? 3,732 yards, 40 touchdowns, 6 interceptions as a sophomore last season. But again, I'm talking the level of competition here. Go ahead and put Jaden DeLora at Jackson State. I bet you he'll have similar numbers as Sanders did in 22. I'm just saying it. Another point here I have. Colorado is not going to be as good as some people might think, okay? There's a lot of hype. I get it. But they won 1 game last season, and they overturned a lot of their roster. You might say that's a good thing for a 1-win season, but look, that also could be a bad thing as far as team chemistry and cohesiveness goes on a roster. And only time will tell how good Shedeur Sanders and this Colorado roster is. There's a lot of questions. So for me to put him any higher than 7, there's just going to have to be proof. That's why I have them at 7. Who do you got at 7?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. Again, I had Shedeur Sanders at number 7, which originally when I made this list, I didn't. And the reason for that was I was like, man, has he proven himself right up that point? And I had him at 6 originally. And then I moved Jaden DeLora from Arizona up. But again, yeah, I think it really came back to, watching right his film and thinking he hasn't fully proved it yet, right? He hasn't played a Pac-12, defense yet.
Yeah.
He hasn't played against a defense really yet that is going to challenge him on that level, right? Yeah, at Jackson State, he threw for 70 touchdowns in 2 seasons, right? But again, as you said, right, like you put a quarterback like Jayden de Laura or even Bo Nix, let's just say, that's going to be pretty, they're going to put
up numbers, man. They're going to kill it.
100%.
You know what I mean? So
100%.
it's impressive, but it's not like I have to put him in my top 5. Have some people have him, you know what I mean? So
100%. And I will say his ball placement it's impressive. He does have a lot of impressive, traits. And even when you and me talked about our schedule prediction, we talked about when they play Oregon that there's going to be flashes of talent from him. And that was one of the things that's probably going to keep that game interesting, is to see him right out there and what talent he brings to Colorado. I agree with you about the roster switch up, right? Like they lost so many players, transfer portal. Felt like every day you were just seeing in headlines, like Colorado loses another 5 players. And it was like, oh, so, I think that overall Colorado probably isn't going to be that good this year. And that's no, offense to Coach Prime or, Shadu, there's no, it's nothing towards them. It's just, they're going to build. They're in a building year, I would say. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they build and how he plays overall. But again, that's why I moved him to 7 instead of 6, having him lower on the list. I don't know that I could do that. So again, yeah, for that reason, I have him at 6.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I think Sanders has proven himself more than the other quarterbacks on the list. That's why I have them a little higher. Like me, it was kind of between de Laura or, Sanders at 6 or 7. And I'm just thinking, de Laura's, he has, he's been in the Pac-12 for a couple years, and Sanders is his first year. So that's why I got Sanders lower than de Laura. The graphic here for you on screen says 6. You have him at 7. Yeah. So I'm going to go to number 6 now. My number 6 is Jayden de Laura out of Arizona. So Jayden de Laura in Arizona, they had a 5-win season last year, which, at first glance isn't that impressive. You think 5 wins, it's not that great. But when you step back and look at it at a further distance, year 1 under Jedd Fisch, Arizona only won 1 game in his first year. So that 5-7 record doesn't look too bad now, does it? The Wildcats will be improving vastly under Fisch, and de Laura will be paired up with 2 big-time playmakers on the outside to help him possibly reach career numbers this year. He's got Jacob Cohen, who had 85 receptions, 1,034 yards, 7 touchdowns last season. And then you got Terrell McMillan, a guy, who Arizona beat out the Ducks on the recruiting trail for. 39 receptions, 702 yards, and 8 touchdowns his freshman season. The Arizona football program is definitely on the right trajectory, and de Laura has a couple of seasons under his belt already, paired with 2 big-time wide receivers. Watch out for the Wildcats, man, and de Laura. Who you got, man, at number 6?
At number 6, as we just talked about, I did move Jayden de Laura up. And another reason over having, Shadu Sanders was, I know Jayden de Laura's had a pretty crazy offseason. He just recently settled his case from high school. So, that does weigh, on a player, especially mentally. The media coverage over the offseason has been kind of iffy for him. And I feel for him, right? Like, it's going to play, kind of with him mentally. But I do think that he's a talented quarterback, right? And I think he has put in work this offseason to become a better quarterback. And on the field, weapons, as you just talked about, they're there for him this season. And he has the talent there to have a good season, I would say, wide receiver wise. And so it's going to be interesting to see how he plays. He has a great mentality about the game. And again, he has really good talent to be able to hit those, wide receivers in those spots that he needs to. And so I'm excited to watch him play, this season. And it's going to be an interesting season for sure for them in Arizona and Mr. Jayden de Laura.
Yeah, man, I think they're a sneaky team. Now, I get it. That defense is definitely going to have to improve. But de Laura, and he's got some weapons. I think Jedd Fisch is a pretty damn good coach. Okay, guys, we are going to continue on the Ducks Zone 503 podcast. I got my guy, Maleki Stanton here of the DucksFocus Podcast. We're going to be continuing to name our top 12 quarterbacks of the season, 12 through 1. We've just went through 12 through 6. We're going to continue on here in just a second. Today's ad sponsor. What's going on, guys? It's your boy Dominiqk Peterson, host of the Duck Zone 503 podcast, where we talk all things Oregon football. Very excited to announce we just launched our very first merch store. Men's and women's t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, stickers, phone cases, mugs, and cups are all sold at duckzone503.creator-spring.com. If you want to go grab one of those today, that's duckzone503.creator-spring.com. Store link will be in the description below as well. All right, guys, we're back continuing on with the podcast. Let's get into it. My number 5 quarterback is Cam Ward out of Washington State. There have been, some very high expectations for Ward in Washington State, for some very fair reasons. I mean, the guy put up 4,648 yards and 47 touchdowns in 2021 at Incarnate Ward. And, just like I was talking about, though, a lot of hype, right? Like big numbers, but he played at Incarnate Ward. It's what we were just talking about previously, and I was one of those guys. Like, I made the mistake. I was one of the guys last season on this podcast, ringing the bell on the Cam Ward hype train. Well, like I said, Incarnate Ward, smaller schools, little smaller competition, no disrespect. But look, you come to the Pac-12, you're just facing faster, stronger, better athletes. And, he had a good season, but did he hit expectations? My opinion is no. But still, the guy had a pretty damn good season. 3,231 yards, 23 touchdowns, leading the Cougars to a fair 7-6 record. That ain't bad. Now, ball security is something that Ward's going to have to get better at in year 2. He's in this year 2 of the system now. He has a whole year to get better. He has a whole offseason to get better, a whole fall camp. And I think he's bound to only improve. So I have Cam Ward at number 5 for my quarterbacks. Who you got at number 5, Maleki?
At number 5, I got Cam Ward, just like you. And I think it's obvious. I know.
we got the same mind when we evaluate these quarterbacks. That's crazy.
We do. No, number 5, I do have Cam Ward. And I think that it's obvious that Cam Ward worked on his quarterbacking during the offseason, his fundamentals, everything like that. I mean, it shows, right, if you've watched anything from spring. And I think that a more refined Cam Ward is the star of the show. Right? Like that is what we're starting to see. Right. And that's, he is a good quarterback, right? If you watched him last season, you saw the talent that he has. You saw flashes, if Oregon fans remember back to that game, right? It was real close. I mean, and if it wasn't for an interception, I don't know that we would have won that game. Right. And so that kind of goes into ball security, which I think is something that he definitely needs to work on, right? Needed to work on. Was that ball security, game time decisions, right? And it is something that he struggled with last season. But I think that he's worked quite a bit on it. And I think that this season it's going to be interesting to see how he has worked to improve and his ball placement this upcoming season. Because, again, that's what cost him. I think they could have beaten Oregon, and that would have been, a pretty big deal if it wasn't for that interception. I think this year he is, again, going to be more refined, and I think that Washington State has a chance to be a sneaky team. I think you look at them, and I think they could be kind of a dark horse, right, in the Pac-12 this upcoming year. Hot take. That might be a hot take, but I think that they could be sneaky.
I think that's a great hot take. I mean, I'm going to do, previewing and power ranking the Pac-12 teams. I've been doing my notes on that. So listeners, look out for that. That's going to be a good one. But I've been previewing Washington State pretty closely. They have a sneaky good front seven too. I mean, they gave problems. They're speedy. They have a lot of speed up there. So mix that with Cam Ward's offense. I mean, they almost beat the Ducks. This is a very, very sneaky team. 100%. I agree with that. Okay. Let's move on here. We got number 4. I got Cam Rising out of Utah for my number 4. The Utah Utes, Kyle Whittingham and Cam Rising all share the exact same thing in common, guys. They all are very, very, very underappreciated in the college football world. The Utes and Cam Rising are now back-to-back Pac-12 champions and have appearances in the Rose Bowl 2 consecutive years now. Fun fact, guys, on that run, Cam Rising has thrown for over 6,500 yards over the past 2 seasons since taking over at the beginning of 2021. Now, it's important to note that Rising did have knee surgery during the offseason. It will be interesting to see if that makes him take a step back or not. He will have his top target, Brent Keithy, for the 2023 season. They will be locked and loaded. Very tough, underrated. Rising has the ability to evade defenses in the pocket with crafty footwork and the accuracy to put the ball in very tough places. I really like Cam Rising in the Utes secretly. Look, if I wasn't, a homer for Oregon, if I didn't grow up a Ducks fan, I think I'd be a Utes fan, man. I really like what they do. They're never talked about. They never get the credit, but they go out there and do their thing. I love it. I like Cam Rising at number 4.
Yeah. I think you might need to be fired, honestly, for saying that you like. I'm just kidding.
I know. Get out of here. What do you mean you like the Utes? Yeah, especially the way they beat us. You're right.
Yeah. No. What? You got to go. I'm just kidding. But no. Number 4.
At least we got our revenge last year, is what I was going to say. Sorry about that.
No, we did. You're 100% right. Number 4. I also, guess who? Cam Rising. You'll forever be a Utah legend. Yeah. Utah legend, though, I think, for leading the program to Pasadena, not once, but twice. And I think his ACL, surgery, it's going to be interesting to see how he comes out. Assuming that, he gets back to full health, full recovery, all of that, they have the chance, don't want to say it, but they have the chance to go back as Pac-12 champs, possibly. I don't, personally as a Duck fan, I have a bias saying that I think the Ducks are going to win the Pac-12 championship, but, I do think they have the talent there to, make it back.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. And you know what they say? Hey, man, what's crazy is two great minds think alike, right? Two great minds think alike. We got all these quarterbacks that are the same. And what's crazy is you probably won't find this a lot. You probably won't find two guys, oh yeah, exactly like this, because there's so many great quarterbacks and so many points you can make, but we're entering the top 3 here. Let's see if me and Maleki get in a little debate here. Let's see if we got a different projection here. As I got at number 3, and some of you Duck fans might be a little upset. I got our guy, Bo Nix, at number 3. Okay, but look, Bo Nix, I like to call him Bo Heisman. Let's get it. Bo Heisman for 2023, baby. Bo Nix, I got him at number 3. Nix returns for his second year at Oregon, which is big. Okay, another year is always great for quarterbacks. He'll be paired up with plenty of weapons. He brings back number 1 wide receiver Troy Franklin. He's got his stepbrother and electric playmaker Tej Johnson. You bring in Alabama transfer Trayshawn Holden. Chris Hudson has always been a very reliable receiver. And Gary Bryant Jr. from USC. So there's so many. I'd argue there's more than last year for Bo Nix to go throw to. Not to mention his top 2 running backs, Bucky Irving, Noah Whittington. You add even more freshmen to that room that are heavy and dangerous. It's going to be crazy for this offense at Bo Nix. Now, the Ducks will have a few faces to replace up front at that O-line. They also bring in a new OC/quarterbacks coach. Will that new OC and that new O-line make Nix take a step back? And as a Duck fan, I'd most definitely like to hope not, right? But those are very 2 important factors for a quarterback to be successful. The Ducks have made some big-time additions through the portal to shore out that O-line. They got number 1 rated offensive tackle Josh Connerly in year 2, primed for a big year. Johnny Cornelius comes in through the transfer portal as well. Couple new faces up front that have had some big time reps, but not exactly starter reps, are going to be looking to take that starting role. Now, last year's O-line, they only allowed 1 sack through 8 games. Probably a big factor on why Bo Nix had such a great year at Oregon. Nix had 71% completion rating, 3,593 yards passing, 29 touchdowns through the air. Compare that to Nix at Auburn in 2021, where he only completed 61% of his passes. A little over 2,000 yards, only 11 touchdowns. Although, you got to remember, he did battle through injuries, so you can't say, that's a complete comparison, but still, a huge jump coming to Oregon. It was evident in reality, on film. I mean, the average fan can look at it and know that Bo Nix played a lot better at Oregon. Nix set career highs in each passing metric. His accuracy on every level of the field to his arm strength is something we just haven't previously seen. His consistency was very key for the Ducks last season, and it will be again in 2023. But look, guys, offensive coordinator, I mentioned this earlier, Kenny Dillingham is gone. In when his freshman year at Auburn, Bo Nix, he had Kenny Dillingham as his quarterbacks coach. He had his best career numbers. Next 2 seasons, he struggles. He gets injured in one of the years. Comes to Oregon, Kenny Dillingham pairs up again, has a career year. So his best years in college football are with Kenny Dillingham as his quarterback's coach / OC, right? So he leaves. You got one of the best O-lines in college football. We'd like to think the O-line is going to be successful, but you got a lot of new faces. I would put him over Penix at number 2, but with a lot of new changes, it's kind of questionable. Now, as a Duck fan, I definitely think that Bo Nix is going to do great. This is not to put him down and think he's going to do bad. That's why I have him high as number 3. But it's just looking at the changes that he has to deal with. On top of, I think you got to give it to Michael Penix. I hate to say it. Washington beat Oregon last year. Penix is their quarterback. I have to give him the edge there. And, I guess I just gave away my number 2 quarterback, but I have Bo Nix at number 3. Who you got at number 3?
At number 3, I had Michael Penix Jr. The reason for that is, I think he received Heisman contention a little bit too late, right? He kind of got recognized, I would say, a little bit too late. But if he plays the way he did last year, I think he has a serious chance for Heisman contention. The reason that I have him at number 3, I'll get into it when I say my number 2 a lot more than I am right now. But I would say Washington, does have some new faces as well, but I think they're going to be a real good team this upcoming year. And Michael Penix's skill, one thing that's really looking at me right now in my notes is that Michael Penix Jr. had averaged more yards per play and more yards per game than Caleb Williams, while also leading his team to 11 wins and a higher final ranking than the Trojans. Now,
wow,
that's good. That's impressive. I mean, hands down, that is impressive. And that was just looking at me in my notes, and that scared me. I feel like y'all needed to hear that. And if they reach the college football playoff, it will be, because of the play of their quarterback. No doubt about that, because of just his sheer talent and his skill. But again, I have him at number 3. And I really think that stat line right there, it's impressive. I mean, there's no doubt about that. And they beat Oregon last year, as all Oregon fans know. So hopefully, that doesn't happen this year. Praying it doesn't.
100%. I like it. Okay, so we got a little difference there. Finally, let's go.
Finally.
Okay, so my graphics for some reason are gone. I had the other 2 graphics, but we're just going to continue on here vocally and let you guys know what's going on. So at number 2, I have Michael Penix Jr. So I have him over Bo Nix. Okay, but just like Bo Nix, Michael Penix took off to the West Coast to play some Pac-12 football, and boom, just like that, guys. I'm talking 4,641 yards passing, number 2 in the country. Leads Washington to the number 1 passing attack in the country, number 2 overall in offense, only behind Tennessee. Now, I'm going to see, lots of lists with Bo Nix ahead of Penix. I'm going to see half these lists with Penix above Nix. It's kind of your call here with these rankings with these guys. But like I said earlier, I got to give Penix the edge here just off the head-to-head results. Okay, it was a very close game. Oregon, I feel in my mind, dropped that game. It had a lot of opportunities to win it. But look, you got to do it. Although, look, I'm putting Penix at number 2 here. I do think Nix, I got to say this, I do think Bo Nix is the more draftable quarterback for the NFL. Penix was healthy all last year for Washington. And knock on wood, Washington fans, because he's had some injury problems in the past. He's suffered 2 pretty serious knee injuries. And he stayed healthy. So look, if NFL drafts scouts look at that, they're going to be looking at, past injuries and he's now Nick's had his fair amount of injuries too, but 2 knee injuries and you're kind of older. I mean, I think Nix is the more draftable quarterback. I think draft scouts are going to be a little scared of Penix, even given the impressive stats. Now, Penix had a very impressive season last year and returns his top 2 wide receivers, Jalen McMillan and Rome Odunze from last season. Overall, I hate to say it, but I have Penix at number 2 on my list of the Pac-12 quarterbacks entering 2023. All right, my guy, who do you got at number 2?
At number 2, I have Caleb. I'm just kidding. I don't have Caleb Williams at number 2.
I would love that. Sure, Duck fans would love that.
They would, but no. I do have Bo Nix at number 2. I think that this year, Bo the program last year, right? It was the first year under Dan Lanning. I would say that the team was kind of building, even though we did real well, for a first-year head coach, Bo Nix's first year. Oregon did very well. They beat out a lot of expectations that other people, you watched SportsCenter, these places, right? And they at first weren't really sure on the Ducks, just because it was the first year, Bo Nix's year, how well would Bo Nix perform? But after last season, I think Bo's more familiar with a lot of this offense, right? The wide receivers, we did lose a couple guys. Our offensive line, lost some guys. But I think that the connection is more there. I would say the bond of the guys is stronger, maybe even than last year. And I think that's a great thing, right? It's going to make the team culture better. And so there's a lot of things with that I would say have built. I got to see, Bo recently, at a kids camp. I got to see him throw. And I kind of got to
awesome,
see
man.
him.
There was a great picture of that.
Yeah,
That's
there was.
awesome.
It was a great experience. And, Bo, I really got to see Bo be a leader, right? And yes, it was younger kids, right, that he was talking to, but you can tell, right? Like, that's how he is with, his teammates, right? The love, the compassion, everything was there. And I think seeing that in person, is really great. And so I know that Bo is a leader, and we've known that, as for the stats, right? That's a big part of this, Michael Penix, putting him over Michael Penix is a big deal, right? And when it came down to it, there were few to none that were more spectacular than Bo Nix, right? With ball security, his throwing. I mean, he accumulated over 4,000 all-purpose yards last season, which it's incredible, right? That's awesome. And I mean, that growth again coming from Auburn was great. I mean, I could, praise Bo Nix forever, and I could go on forever about how great of a quarterback Bo Nix is. Despite Kenny Dillingham leaving, though, I think another year in the program, I think the sky's the limit for how high the Ducks can fly. No pun intended with that, this upcoming season. And I think that it's going to make for a great season. I think there's going to be some serious Heisman talk if Bo stays healthy. Knock on wood, Oregon fans, that Bo Nix stays healthy. But again, if he stays healthy, I have the Ducks and Bo Nix at number 2.
Yeah, man. I can't wait for the October 14th game. That Nix needs that revenge, man, because that was the big thing for me on going on this. Look, and Penix, statistically was great through the air. But you got to think about it. He's got 2, all conference receivers by his side. Nix has Troy, but who else last season kind of stepped up besides that? So you kind of add that in. But the big thing for me, it was like I was flopping. Why I had Penix at the end of the day was just that head-to-head game. And I get it. Nix got injured, and I feel like the Ducks gave it away. I'll announce that again. But at the end of the day, they got the win with no excuses. You know what I mean? So that's why I had him at number 2. I wanted to put Nix at 2. Trust me, Duck fans. I wanted to. It hurt. And another thing that's going to hurt for me is at number 1, I have Caleb Williams out of USC. And it's not fun. It's not fun when I have to be real, and I got to rank these 2 guys ahead of, our guy. But look, I think it would be pretty foolish if I didn't have Caleb Williams, last year's Heisman Trophy winner, at number 1 on my list. Every draft scout you could think of has him compared to NFL star quarterback Patrick Mahomes. And to be fair, for good reason, guys, finishing 2022 historical season with 4,537 yards and 42 touchdowns. Williams can drive the ball with proficient accuracy like no other quarterback can in college football this year. The plays he can make in and out of the pocket are very rare and elite. The scouts just drool over this talented Trojan quarterback. Now, Williams is not only the best quarterback in the Pac-12, but Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in the nation. And trust me, guys, it hurts to say that as a Duck fan, but the stats and accolades speak for themselves. Williams is just that guy. I cannot wait. USC Oregon game in November. Who's your number 1 guy? Oh, I guess there's 1 guy left on the board, right?
There's 1 guy left on the board, and it's clearly Bo Nix. I'm just kidding.
It has to be Bo Nix. Hey, I'm telling you, Duck fans, Bo Nix goes undefeated and beats these guys. He's number 1. Let him know.
We're gonna make all the fans of all the other Pac-12 schools mad watching this, so don't come after us. I do have Caleb Williams, and again, pains. I have pains in my chest just from saying him at number 1. But again, Mr. Ducks on 503. We have to be realistic, right? Like, I guess we have to be realistic. No, but I do have him at number 1. You know, he had a phenomenal season. There's no doubt that he's talented. There's no question about it. You watch him, he's electric. You know, he threw for 4,537 yards and 42 touchdowns and only 5 interceptions. I mean, those are numbers that you want, like, right? Any head coach at any college is like, I want those numbers from a quarterback. And if you watched him play, you just saw how electric he was, right? Even when they played, it was Tulane, right, in their bowl game.
Tulane.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and even watching that game, I remember I think I was on a road trip at the time or something like that, and I was watching, and I was like, wow, this guy really is talented. Even being injured, right? He got injured in that game, and he was a leader. Like, he showed, you know, he was still out there with his guys. He was still competing as hard as he could, and that was really cool to see. You know, it really does show, you know, being a leader. Although, again, that hurts to say. And they did fall short of the playoffs. But they have a chance to make it again this year, right? And with the talent that they have, man, I mean, I don't know if anyone's followed their recruiting cycle, but their recruit is pretty good, you know? And they've brought in some pretty good guys this upcoming year. So really excited to see well, no, I'm not excited actually to see how they play, but I am excited for them to play the Ducks. And I'm excited to see us beat, hopefully, USC this year, even though in my schedule prediction, me and you both have them Ducks not winning, but who knows?
Yeah, man. I think I got, you know, the thing with me is it's a love-hate thing with Washington and USC both. I hate when they're good, but I also love it because, you know, that's what makes the rivalry great is when they're good, right? You know, so it's a love-hate relationship. And let's run through. Oh, yeah, go ahead. Say something.
I was just going to say the rivalry's not fully going away either because we're going to the Big Ten.
Boom, Big Ten. Yeah, they're all coming. It's all coming. That's great.
Big Ten bound.
Okay, let's go ahead and run through real quick what we said. So we ranked our Pac-12 quarterbacks for 2023. I had number 12. I had Ben Finley from Cal. Number 12, you had Ari Patu from Stanford. Number 11, I had Ari Patu from Stanford. Number 11, you had who's this guy again? Ben Finley.
Somewhere.
I know Ben Finley. So. Ben Finley is one of their quarterbacks.
Sam Jackson.
Sam Jackson. Okay. What I'll do is I'll say who I went, and then you go ahead and say who you got. So,
okay,
all right, number 10. I went with Arizona State, Drew Pine, Jade Rashada. Kind of the same sounding name. And then the other guy. I forgot his name, but whatever. Number 10, yeah. Moving on.
Yeah, I also had Drew Pine at that for ASU.
In Arizona State, yeah. Okay, number 9, I had Dante Moore in UCLA. Who'd you got?
I had Dante Moore in UCLA.
Boom. Number 8, I had Oregon State, DJ Uiagalelei.
I also had DJ at number 8.
Boom. Number 7, I had Shedeur Sanders. Yours was different here. You had
no, I did have Shedeur on that one.
She did have Shedeur.
Yeah,
okay. The graphics. Yeah, the graphics just
those.
off. Okay.
Yep.
So you had Shedeur at 7.
Mm-hmm.
Number 6, I had Jaden DeLora. Number 6, you had
Jaden DeLora also.
Yeah. So we just flip-flopped those. That's why the graphics off, guys. I should have updated that. My bad on that. Okay. So number 5, I have Washington State's quarterback. Why am I drawing a blank here? Cam Ward. Yeah. I was driving. I was thinking Cam Rising for some reason. Cam Ward out of Washington State there. Okay. Who did you have at number 5?
I also had Cam Ward.
Bam. Okay. Number 4, I had Cam Rising.
Also had Cam Rising.
Okay. A lot of similarities here. This is where it differs. All right. Number 3, I had Bo Nix.
Number 3, I had Michael Penix Jr.
Boom. 2, I had Michael Penix.
I had Bo Nix at number 2.
Number 2 for him. And then number 1, we both had Caleb Williams. We don't have to repeat that. No.
Yeah.
All right. Bam. Okay. So, guys, I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. That was really fun to do, man. We're going to probably see Maleki Stanton on this podcast a lot more, trying to get him on a lot more. If you guys enjoy his podcast, make sure to follow him. Go ahead and shout out your socials and your podcast where we can find it.
Yeah, you can find me over on Instagram at DucksFocus. Me and Mr. Dominiqk Peterson, we both, post daily updates to keep you updated on college football and most Oregon sports, baseball, softball, basketball, all of them. We keep you updated. And you can find the podcast over on Spotify and Google Podcasts, also at DucksFocus.
Bam. There you guys go. Go hit that follow button. Go tune in. Again, I appreciate everybody tuning in for this edition of the Duck Zone 503 podcast. I'm your host, Dominiqk Peterson. This is the Duck Zone 503 podcast where we talk all things Oregon football. Again, if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. As always, go Ducks. I'll see you guys on Wednesday.